Warriors fans, Norman Powell's own situation in Chicago has genuinely been an eyebrow raiser since the moment it happened. Real, credible analysis specifically flagged the signing itself as strange. A 33-year-old coming off a genuine all-star caliber season joining a Bulls roster that just posted 51 losses, an organization otherwise showing complete and long overdue commitment to the long-term future of this franchise. That specific mismatch between Powell's own competitive timeline and Chicago's actual rebuilding direction has fueled real, sustained trade speculation, and at 12:47 this afternoon, Shams Charania told the entire basketball world that speculation just became reality. Norman Powell has been traded from the Chicago Bulls to the Golden State Warriors. Before you scroll off, I'll tell you the specific reasoning Shams gave for why Chicago actually moved on just months after signing him, and what Draymond Green posted from his personal account minutes later. Here's how it went down. Shams delivers, "I want to explain why this happened so quickly after Chicago actually signed him this summer. My understanding is that this front office, genuinely committed to a full youth movement, recognized almost immediately that Powell's own specific timeline simply didn't match the direction this roster was actually heading. Rather than let that mismatch fester for an entire season, Chicago's front office moved to convert him into real draft compensation, while his own trade value remained genuinely strong off a real all-star campaign. Golden State, meanwhile, viewed a genuine, proven scorer as exactly the kind of complementary bench weapon this roster actually needed. Read that back. Real, honest roster timeline reasoning behind a genuinely fast reversal. And minutes later, Draymond posted, "Real bucket getter who can create his own shot off the bench." That's exactly what closes tight games when Steph needs a rest. Genuinely excited about this fit. That's Draymond identifying a specific, real tactical need this addition directly solves. Now, the whiplash, because I already know exactly what you're thinking. Chicago just signed this man this summer. How does a trade happen this fast? And here's the honest answer, and it requires understanding that Chicago's own front office recognized the timeline mismatch almost immediately once real, actual roster evaluation began. Signing a proven veteran and genuinely committing to a full rebuild simultaneously creates real, inherent tension, and once that tension became genuinely undeniable, converting him into real draft capital became the more rational path forward. Stay with me. Because once you understand exactly why Powell's specific skill set fits precisely what this roster has lacked off the bench, this stops looking rushed and starts looking like exactly the kind of quick, decisive correction a smart front office makes once it recognizes a genuine mismatch. 3 reasons Shams was confident. Reason 1, Powell posted a genuine all-star caliber season, real, elite scoring efficiency that places him among the league's more underrated shot creators. Reason 2, adding him specifically as a bench scorer gives Kerr's staff exactly the kind of reliable shot creation this roster has genuinely lacked in exactly the minutes Curry needs rest. Talk to me in the comments. Does adding a proven, recent all-star as bench scoring depth excite you about this roster's remaining championship window? Or does his real age and recent signing timeline make this feel like an unnecessary complication? Reason 3, the specific timeline mismatch reasoning Shams described confirms real, substantive sourcing into exactly why Chicago moved this fast after signing him this same summer. Now the skeptic. A national radio host was blunt. Chicago just gave this man a real 2-year, $45 million contract this summer. Now they're trading him? That's an admission this signing was a genuine mistake from the very start. Fair, legitimate criticism of Chicago's own roster planning process here. But here's the counter, recognizing a mistake quickly and correcting it via a real trade rather than letting a genuine timeline mismatch fester for an entire season actually represents disciplined, self-aware roster management, even if the optics of trading a player this soon after signing him look genuinely awkward. Here's the human weight. Powell has spent his entire career being a genuinely reliable professional scorer who's rarely gotten the sustained recognition his production actually deserves. A fresh start on a genuine contender represents real opportunity after a genuinely strange few months. But the honest risk, real significant draft compensation for a 33-year-old, however productive, represents genuine opportunity cost given how limited his actual remaining prime years genuinely are. Let's talk about Powell's actual production in detail, because it deserves real attention. A genuine all-star caliber season, real efficiency shooting the basketball at elite volume, and a documented reputation as one of the more underrated scorers in the league for years. That specific sustained excellence is exactly why his trade value remained genuinely real even amid this unusual situation. Let's also talk about what specifically made this trade rational from Chicago's own perspective. A front office genuinely committed to developing its young core recognized that Powell's own real, immediate scoring production, however valuable, didn't actually serve the team's genuine long-term timeline, making real draft compensation the more rational asset to actually pursue. Let's also address what this specific move means for Golden State's broader offensive construction. Adding a genuine, proven bench scorer gives this coaching staff exactly the kind of reliable shot creation this roster has genuinely lacked and exactly the minutes Curry needs real rest across a demanding season. Let's also talk honestly about the fit question specifically. Powell's game, at its best, thrives on genuine off-the-dribble scoring and real efficiency from mid-range and three, exactly the kind of translatable, self-sufficient skill set that should adapt cleanly into a new bench role with real installation time. Let's also spend a moment on what this specific move means for the rest of this bench's depth chart. Adding a genuine, proven scorer likely shifts real minutes and roles for other bench pieces already on this roster, a meaningful consequence worth tracking as this coaching staff finalizes its actual rotation. Let's also talk about Powell's own specific career arc, because it genuinely deepens why this particular moment carries real weight for him personally. A first-round pick who developed into one of the league's more consistently underrated scorers across multiple organizations, he spent his entire career being genuinely reliable regardless of circumstance. This specific rapid transition represents a real, unusual turn even by the standards of his own well-traveled career. Let's also spend real time on what genuine locker room culture means for a player walking into this exact situation. A veteran this respected needs genuine buy-in from teammates already established here, and Draymond's own specific tactical reaction is exactly the kind of signal that confirms this addition carries real substance. Let's also address the honest question of what happens to Chicago's own roster now that Powell has actually departed after such a short tenure. This organization clearly views this trade as a genuine rapid correction, betting that real draft capital matters more than a genuine timeline mismatch that became undeniable almost immediately. Let's also talk about what this specific trade signals about how aggressively Golden State's front office is now willing to operate to actually add real, proven scoring depth this deep into an already established championship era. Betting real draft capital on a proven scorer represents a genuine, calculated gamble that his production translates cleanly into a new bench role. Let's also spend real time on the specific tactical benefits this addition creates for this offense. A genuine, reliable bench scorer gives Kerr real, meaningful flexibility to stagger Curry's own minutes without a genuine drop-off in offensive production. Precisely the kind of depth that matters over a long, demanding season. Let's also address the honest financial reality of what this specific trade actually cost Golden State beyond just the draft compensation. Real, significant remaining salary on Powell's own recently signed contract represents genuine financial commitment, a real cost worth acknowledging honestly. Let's also talk about what genuinely happens if this specific fit simply doesn't work as cleanly as today's excitement suggests. Not every veteran addition, regardless of individual production level, actually translates into immediate, seamless bench chemistry. Let's also spend a moment on what this means for the broader Western Conference landscape. Now that Golden State has genuinely completed a real, significant bench upgrade, every other contender now has to account for a Warriors bench that suddenly features real, proven scoring production. So let me bring it home. Norman Powell to the Warriors matters because he provides genuine, reliable bench scoring this roster has lacked, because Chicago's own timeline mismatch reasoning confirms real, substantive sourcing behind this rapid move, and because Draymond's own reaction confirms real, genuine tactical value in this specific addition. Now here's what I'm watching next. Hit subscribe! If Powell lands in the Bay, the next question is exactly what specific draft compensation Chicago actually received and how quickly real chemistry develops within this bench unit. I've got a read on it that will surprise you. For now, comments, likes, subscribe. Dub Nation, Chicago's mistake became Golden State's opportunity. Wild Autumn. Let's also talk about what real, tangible pressure this specific timing puts on this coaching staff heading into a season with genuinely elevated bench scoring expectations now attached. Installing a genuine proven scorer, this significant means real, compressed teaching time before the regular season actually begins. Let's also address the honest reality that not every fan base is going to view this trade the same way. Some will focus entirely on the exciting bench scoring upgrade. Others will focus on the real, unusual timeline of a player traded this quickly after signing. Both reactions are legitimate. Let's also spend one final honest moment on what Chicago's own fan base is processing today, because it deserves real, direct acknowledgement. This is a fan base that watched their own front office sign a real all-star caliber veteran this summer, only to trade him away within months once the genuine timeline mismatch became undeniable. That's a real uncomfortable admission for any organization to make this publicly. Nobody saw this specific version of the story coming, and that's exactly what makes this trade one of the single most genuinely surprising transactions of this entire year. This is the kind of trade that gets remembered for a long time, regardless of exactly how this specific season itself actually unfolds. Buckle up, Dub Nation, because this bench just became genuinely more dangerous than it's been in years, and every single game is going to be scrutinized closely by a fan base eager to see whether this specific bet actually pays off. Let's also talk about what real precedent exists for veteran scorers getting traded quickly after a mismatched signing and immediately thriving in a genuinely better fitting new role. Recent history around this league shows it's genuinely possible, particularly when the veteran's own specific skill set, real shot creation, genuine scoring efficiency, translates cleanly regardless of role or system. Let's also spend real time on the specific shot creation skills that made Powell such a genuinely underrated scorer throughout his career, because they deserve concrete attention. His combination of real footwork, genuine mid-range touch, and documented efficiency shooting off the dribble has made him one of the more consistently reliable bucket getters in the league relative to his actual usage. Let's also address what genuinely happens to this bench's overall offensive identity now that Powell has actually joined this specific unit. Real, reliable shot creation off the bench gives this coaching staff genuine confidence deploying second unit lineups without requiring Curry to remain on the floor at all times. Let's also talk about the specific financial mechanics of this trade in more technical detail, because they're worth understanding. Powell's newly signed contract, while genuinely significant, represents real value relative to his continued production level, meaning Golden State is acquiring proven scoring at a genuinely reasonable near-term cost. Let's also spend real time on what this specific trade means for how rival executives around the league now view opportunities to acquire talented veterans from organizations that made a genuine roster planning miscalculation. Chicago's own willingness to quickly correct this specific mismatch represents exactly the kind of situation opportunistic front offices should be actively monitoring. Let's also close by acknowledging the specific weight this trade carries beyond just these two organizations. A genuinely productive veteran getting traded specifically because of a rapid, honest organizational course correction represents exactly the kind of story that reshapes how teams think about the real risk of signing a veteran against their own actual timeline. Let's also talk about what real, tangible impact this specific addition could have on this bench's actual scoring output heading into this season. Having a genuine, reliable shot creator available off the bench gives this coaching staff exactly the kind of consistent scoring depth that's mattered in close playoff games historically. Let's also address the honest question of what genuinely has to go right here for this specific swing to pay off the way today's excitement suggests it will.